Hi, I'm Tyler, and this is The Sharpshooter, teaching you valuable skills to make better videos. Today we're talking about 6 things you must know about memory cards. Number 1, brands. Now I personally like SanDisk memory cards. I've used them for years. You can pretty much find them at all the major stores, brick and mortar or online, and I've had a really good track record with them. Now there are a lot of good other memory cards out there too. I've also used Lexar, Patriot, PNY, and Transcend, and they're all really good. It's just SanDisk is my personal preference. Now when I talk about brands, I'm just referring to SD cards. If you're working with proprietary formats like Panasonic's P2 or Sony SXS, you really don't have many options there. Number 2 is class or speed. Now I'm going to have a link in the description to my blog that gets into some of the specifics, but I'm going to tell you 2 things you've got to know about class or speed. The first thing and most important is that when you're working with video, your cards at a minimum need to be class 10. Now you can actually see that icon on the card itself. It looks like a letter C, and inside of it there's a number 10. That designates the card's class. Now if you're working with just HD formats, class 10 is fine. Class 10 is the same as UHS 1. Now if you're working beyond HD in 4K or other formats, I really recommend using UHS 3. That's a higher speed. Number 3 on my list are memory card readers. Now you need to invest in a good memory card reader, and a lot of people forget to do that. You know, if you've got a computer that has a built-in SD card reader, it's probably fine, especially if you have an Apple computer. They're usually really high speed. But if you don't have a built-in memory card reader, I really recommend Kingston. Kingston, in my opinion, makes the best card readers, and they're not paying me to say that, that's just my opinion. I've been using them for about 15 years and I've never had any issues. They're really fast too. Now this is an older model I have that's USB 2. It did a great job, but when the USB 3 model came out, which is this one here, I'll have a link in the description, this one was excellent and actually utilized the maximum speed on all the SD cards that I have. Now keep in mind, SD cards these days are really fast, especially in the last few years. They've really come a long way. So you should be using USB 3 card readers to really take advantage of that speed. Now I'm going to tell you to avoid cheap memory card readers. I've been burned by these. When I was in college, I just picked up the cheapest memory card reader I could find at like Walmart or Office Depot, and I thought it'd be fine. But I actually ended up corrupting a feature film that I was working on because the card reader failed during an import of the video footage. Now keep in mind, these good card readers really aren't that much of an investment. They're about the same price as buying one memory card on its own. So when you see those card readers like this little one that's maybe only just a few dollars, stay away from it. It looks really convenient. This one has USB-C on one side, a USB 3A full-size port on the other, and it can take a standard size SD card and a micro SD card. On the surface, it looks great. It looks like it's going to get the job done, but I would never use this for importing video, especially if the footage is critical, because I've seen far too many times these cheap memory card readers will fail, especially under load when you're importing video. So number 4 on my list is make sure you lock the cards. Now a lot of people don't know about this, but if you look really closely on the card, on the left side there's a tab, and that tab slides up and down. Typically in the up position, that means the card is unlocked, or it is in write mode. Now that means you can actually record footage to the card, or you can erase the card or format it. If you have the card in the locked position, that turns the card into read-only mode, which means the files can be accessed from the card, but no new files can be added, nor can the files be deleted. So I've just made it a habit for myself to lock the card as soon as it comes out of the camera, and I keep it locked as I insert it into the memory card reader and import my footage. Once I've imported the footage, then you can decide whether or not it's time to unlock it. Now, it's really up to you when you decide to unlock the card. For myself, I don't unlock it until I've made a backup of the card. And I know other people that keep the card locked until they're finished with the project. They just won't use that SD card until their project is complete. It's really your preference, whatever works best for you, and really however many cards you have to work with. But for me, backing up the card is enough to know that it's safe to delete. So when it comes time for me to use the card again for a new project, I'll just go ahead and unlock the card, and I'll put it into the camera that I'm going to be using, and I will format it so the card is clean and ready for my next shoot. And this brings us to number 5, which is formatting your memory cards. Now, as I was saying, it's important to format the card inside the camera that you're using. I never format my memory cards on a computer. It's just not a good idea, and I'll tell you why. Now, when you format your card inside the camera, you're actually creating a database on that card. Now, that contains critical information from your camera. It's called metadata, and basically just information about your video footage that may be helpful for the video editor when it's imported, or for the camera to index what's on the card as you record new footage. I could spend a lot of time talking about that, but the important thing is to format the card with the camera you're going to be using. Now, I will say that recent cameras have gotten better about this, where if you accidentally forget to format the card and you use it in a different camera, usually you can have both databases on the same card and you won't have any problems. Now, 10 years ago, if you did that, you were liable to have corrupted video footage. But now that's something that doesn't happen as much, but I'd still just recommend formatting the card each time you shoot to avoid any chance of video file corruption. And number 6 is protecting your cards with card carriers. Now, I'm kind of surprised to this day that more people aren't using card carriers. I've worked with a lot of professionals that just, when they're done, they just put the card in their pocket. And that's just crazy to me, because the cards can break, or cards can get wet, they can get damaged, and I wouldn't want that to happen. I mean, I just spent all this time, all this effort recording this video footage that I want to protect my card just as much as I protect my camera or any other piece of equipment. So just pick these up, they're really cheap. I've got a few here that I'm going to show you. This particular one is from a brand called Rugged. I think I got it on B&H. This is the kind that I use every day at my corporate day job, and it's really simple. It holds 8 full-size SD cards, and it's lightweight. It's got a lock that keeps the cards dry and keeps humidity out. It's really tough. It's not going to bend or flex too much where the cards could be damaged, and it fits in your pocket or your backpack. It's really easy to carry along. Now, they also make this cute little mini version. I keep this in my backpack, and I just keep old SD cards in here for emergency purposes. It's got a little keychain hook that you can clip in your backpack if you're going to be transporting it that way. And it holds 4 full-size SD cards. And lastly, this is the card carrier that I use for my personal company. And it's just really simple. It holds several memory cards, so there's a little pocket indentation where it holds micro SD cards, and above that you can actually hold full-size SD cards as well. It looks like it will hold 12 full-size and additionally 12 micro SD cards too. And again, it's like the other ones. It opens like a book. It's got a lock to keep everything safe. It's rigid, and there's a rubber seal to keep your cards dry. Now, these are cheap, just pick them up. They're really convenient, and you'll always have something to put your memory cards into. Especially for multi-camera shoots, this is critical. I find myself doing multi-camera shoots a lot, sometimes back to back, and I use different memory cards with the same cameras. And so between each shoot, I'll pull this out, I'll swap out my cards and put it in my pocket, and that way I know I'm not accidentally recording over any video footage on the same card. Now, if you don't have a card carrier right now, I'm going to tell you one thing that's going to keep your cards safe. When you're finished shooting, leave the card in the camera until you're ready to import the footage. That's going to be the best way to keep the cards safe, so you're not putting it in your pocket or putting it somewhere where it could be lost or damaged. Now I'm going to share a couple bonus tips with you before we wrap up this video. This tip is critical, and I actually learned it from an Adobe employee who trained me on Premiere. Now she told me whenever I'm copying the files from the memory card to copy the entire card structure over to the computer's hard drive. Now believe it or not, those little files on the memory card that aren't actually the video files contain important information, and some of those can be utilized by Adobe and other nonlinear editors. Now I'll admit, before that training I didn't always do that, especially when I was working with AVC HD files. Now if you work with AVC HD, you will know that there's a lot of extra metadata on your card that isn't actually a video file. But it's important to copy those over so your editor knows what those files are. Now it's also important because you might find yourself in a situation where you need to restore a memory card on an actual SD card, and you'll have to have that entire card structure to recreate a memory card. And the last tip that a lot of people don't do, always eject your cards from your computer after you're done importing. I know sometimes it feels like a hassle, and yes, if you have your card locked, it's probably not necessary, but again, it's just good practice to protect your data. I'm Tyler, and this is The Sharpshooter. Thanks for watching, and make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel for future videos. You don't want to miss out.